Shalom. We are now going to study a Sicha from Likutei Sichos, Chelek Yud Bet, volume 12, for Parshas Behar, the second Sicha. Before we begin, you will notice something as you learn the Sicha, especially if you have less of a background in Aramaic. You'll notice that this Sicha, although this book was written in Lashon HaKodesh, in Hebrew, but it's not pure Hebrew, it's not pure Lashon HaKodesh. Rather, it's blended with expressions, terms, words from Aramaic. I would compare it to studying a Rashi on any given page of Gemara. You'll find many times that the Rashi is not purely Lashon HaKodesh, rather, it's blended with expressions from the Talmud, which you become accustomed to over time, terms, expressions, and so on. So if you were to, for example, to look in a dictionary, a good Hebrew dictionary, even an extensive Lashon HaKodesh dictionary, you may not find certain words in that dictionary, certain words from the Sicha, that is, because it's Aramaic. But that's okay. You get used to the terms. With time, you get used to the lingo. By the time we're done this Sicha, by the time we accomplish this, we will have had the answers and enjoy and appreciate the answers to the following questions. Number one, how does one categorize this prohibition of ribis, of not giving interest? Is it a monetary matter or is it a prohibition? What's the difference? What difference would that make? I'll give you an example. One is not allowed to steal. Say someone steals. What happens? They have obviously transgressed. They've committed a sin. Hashem says, do not steal. But now, at this point, what, according to the Torah, do they have to do? What do they owe to the other person besides an apology? What do they owe? They owe money, or the value of the item that they stole, or the item itself. But this becomes a monetary matter. This is an issue of money. Therefore, let's say, for example, the victim decides to forgive it. It's forgiven. So the question is, in this case, does it fall into that category of being a monetary matter? Or is it a prohibition when the Torah overrides any monetary issue that may be involved? We'll find out. Another very interesting thing, the Torah prohibits it. But I ask you the question, is it something that is inherently morally wrong? Is it a bad thing? I mean, all those banks out there, all the people that give loans with interest, are they bad people? Do we put them in the same category as thieves, as bandits? I don't know. We know it's very taboo as a Jew, from one Jew to another. It's a terrible thing, and the Torah makes a big deal out of it. But really, is it like a moral, ethical, debased idea to just say, look, I'm giving you money, and you're going to make maybe profit on that money. What's in it for me? We'll find out. Another thing, what happens if one did give a loan and he charged interest? And now, do you make him return it? Do you force him to return it? How about if he comes on his own and he wants to return it? Do we accept it back? Do we say, no, it's your money, keep it. You do tshuva, it's between you and God. How does this all work? And we're going to find out the answer to all these questions. What we're going to do is we're going to study some part inside, and part of it I'll discuss, and then we'll go and continue with some of the text inside. Let's start with Aleph. Kasuv v'Parshasenu. It says in our Parsha, this is Parshas Behar, chapter 25, verse 35 and 36. If your brother becomes destitute, he's in need of money, ger v'soishav v'chayimach. Whether it's a ger, a toishav means a resident, somebody who's allowed to live in Israel, v'chayimach, he should live with you, means you have an obligation to assist him, to support him, to see to it that he has the means to get by. However, al tikach me'itoy neshech v'tarbis. Do not take from him any whatsoever The Torah calls it neshech, it's biting, because it bites, it takes, you don't feel it in the beginning. The tarbis, do not take ribis, do not take any interest. Upirshu chazal b'gemara. The Chachamim explain in the Gemara, our sages explain, Shema shenemar al tikach me'itoy neshech umarbis. That which it says in the verse, do not take from him any whatsoever type of interest, any whatsoever type of profit on the money that you're loaning the person, that you're helping them with. Koi, this is actually a Aramaic word, rak, only, exclusively, alachicha, on your brother. When you look in the verse, it mentions several people. It mentions your brother. It mentions a person living in Eretz Yisrael who has the right to live in Eretz Yisrael, who to a certain extent you're obligated to assist and to help and to see to it that he's able to live. But when the Torah prohibits us from taking interest, that only applies to your brother. V'loi al ger v'soishav, and not on the foreigner and the resident. And therefore, shelochein, if you look in the brackets, and that is actually the reason why nemar al tikach me'itoy, quote, the words al tikach me'itoy, do not take from him, beloshin yachid, it is said in singular form. It doesn't say do not take from them, do not charge them any interest. It says do not take from him. Veloy al tikach me'itam beloshin rabim. It doesn't say it in the plural form. Uma shenemar ger v'soishav, the fact that the Torah in the same verse includes the foreigner and the resident, hu rak li'inyan v'cheimach, that is exclusively for the positive matter of support him, help him live with you. And in quotes, the Rebbe quotes from Rashi, Sha'ata mitzuva l'hachayoisei, you are commanded, you are obligated to see to it that he's able to live. Avaloi li'inyan al tikach me'itoy neshech v'tarbis. But this does not go on the other part of the verse, the prohibition of taking interest. V'kasav harambam. The Rambam writes, ha'akum is the goy, v'ger soishav, and the goy who is on a lesser level than ha'akum. Ha'akum literally means somebody who worships idols, real goy, and the ger soishav, the person who is a resident in Eretz Yisrael, lovim mehem, you borrow from them, u'melavim mehem, and you can loan to them, biribis, with interest. And he says why? He concludes, la'chicha asur u'lishar ha'olam mutar. It's to your brother, meaning to a fellow Jew, that is prohibited, but to a foreigner, to anyone else, to the rest of the world, it's permitted. And then he continues, u'mitzvas aseh, and it's a positive command, lahashich la'akum, to actually charge the goy interest. Shenemar, because it says in the pasuk, la nochri sashich, to the nochri, to the goy, to the Gentile, you should charge interest. Mipi hashmu alamdu, from tradition we've learned, passed down from generation to generation, shezu mitzvah saseh, that this is actually a positive command. That it's not only permissible, it's not only something that you're allowed, and it's arbitrary, it's up to your decision whether you want to do it or not, but it seems from the Rambam that the Torah obligates you to charge the guy. That means do not give him money for free. Do not give him an interest-free loan. V'hainu, says the Rebbe, and this basically means, sheyeshnam gimel dinim b'halva beribis. There are three dinim, there are three laws, there are three details in the law of loaning with interest. Yisrael, for another Yid, Asr. You see the Rebbe, the word Asr is emphasized in italics. Asr lahalvois beribis. It's forbidden to give a Yid a loan with interest. Ger v'soishav, mutar lahalvois beribis. For ger soishav, which this concept no longer exists today, it is allowed, it is permissible. It's up to you. If you choose to charge ribis, you can. But akum, a goy, a real goy, an idol worshiper, mitzvah lakachas mimenu ribis. It's a mitzvah to take ribis from him. V'hinei, and behold, let's analyze this. Ma shehitira haTorah lakachas ribis ma'akum. The fact that the Torah, you see in the last line here on the right column, the word hitira is italic. The fact that the Torah permits and of course not only permits, but that includes in certain cases obligates one to take ribis, to take interest from a guy, even though the rule in Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam and the Gemara is that it's forbidden to steal, to rob anyone, whether a yid or a goy. The notion that some have that you're allowed to steal from a goy is absolutely wrong. In fact, according to the Rabbi brings here in the footnotes that there's according to certain opinions, it actually may be a biblical prohibition to steal even from a goy. V'gam asur midiraisa l'ramis es b'nei adam and mekach hamemka. The Rebbe quotes here from the various sources, whether from Shulchan Aruch or the Rambam, that it's forbidden, and he puts it in parentheses midiraisa, like I mentioned. According to some opinions, it's even a biblical prohibition to cheat, to steal from anyone. Ve'echad akum ve'echad Yisrael shavim b'davar zeh. And whether it's a Jew, whether it's a guy, they're all both equal. You're not allowed to steal from anyone. So from the fact that the Torah not only allows us, but like I said, in some cases actually obligates us to charge interest from a guy, already can tell us that this is not an issue of stealing. In other words, the reason why you're not allowed to charge a yid interest is certainly not because it has some connection to thievery, to cheating him out of his money. Move on who? So it's understood. Ki shani ribis migezel. Shani means difference. In Hebrew it would be shoneh. Shani ribis migezel v'onah. That ribis is different than stealing and cheating somebody. Ukedeisa b'Gemara, like the Gemara says, that even by Jews, shegam bi Yisrael lo motzinu lemela fa'isur delekichas ribis misurei gezel v'onah. That even by a yid, you cannot learn out the prohibition. You cannot compare the prohibition of not charging interest from the fact that you're not allowed to steal or you're not allowed to cheat another Jew. Why? Because the Gemara says, Ma lahanach, what's for these? It means, what do we find? What is the unique characteristic of gezel and enah, of stealing and cheating? Shekein shalom b'das. Because it's something that you do without the person's knowledge. You do it against their will. You do it without them knowing it. Typically when you steal from someone or one is cheated, the person who is doing it to the victim doesn't want the victim to know about it. But in this case, or as in the words of the Gemara, oino, in cheating somebody, lo yoda, he doesn't know about it. Gezel, when you go and you rob somebody, al karache shakli, you take it against the person's will. So in both cases, it's not with the person's consent. It's not with the person's awareness or positive awareness. Toimar beribis temitaita inoisamai. And the Gemara says, are you going to try to say the same? Are you going to try to compare it to ribis, to interest, which the person gives him on his own free will? In fact, in many cases, you say, please, give me a loan. I'm ready to pay whatever it takes. I need the money now. I need to invest. I need to pay a bill. I need to pay my mortgage, whatever it is. So you can't compare the two. So it's obvious that ribis is not an issue, is not a matter of cheating the person, is not an issue of, or because of you're stealing from him, or mekivan sheharibis shani migezel vayno, and since ribis is different than stealing and then cheating, because the charging of this interest, the charging of the money is by the full consent and awareness of the borrower. Lochein osi shapir. Therefore, osi means it comes out, shapir means good. Osi shapir, it comes out very well. Sheloi osra ha'Torah lakachas ribis, that the Torah did not prohibit to take ribis. Hakala migezel, that's much different and more lenient and lighter than stealing and cheating. Elo me'achicha avaloi ma'akom v'ger toishav. And therefore it's understood, and it can begin to make sense, why the Torah prohibits it only from your brother. It's an exclusive prohibition for another yid, from one yid to another, but not from a guy. Because if in any way it had any whatsoever smell or remnant of stealing or cheating or being unfair, then the Torah would prohibit it. Like it does equally the prohibition of stealing from a yid or a guy. Omnam, however, the fact that there is a positive command, as we quoted the Rambam earlier, to charge the goy, to take from the goy interest, tzarich bir. This needs a clarification. I can understand that you say, look, this is not really bad, this is not morally wrong, but you know what, for another yid, for family, I don't want you to do it. I can see, that is the distinction. But to turn around and say, listen, if he's outside of the family, if it's a non-yid, you not only are allowed to, but you have an obligation, this needs some clarification. Even though it's true, as we've already stated, that the loiva, the borrower, gives the money, pays the interest from his own will and his own awareness. It's true. However, aval harei ha-Torah kora b'shem neshech. The Torah gives it a very derogatory term. The Torah calls it neshech. It's a biting thing. There's a negative connotation in the way the Torah displays it, in the way the Torah portrays it. So how come it's allowed? Vav samach, the Rosh Tevis, v'soif soif. Bottom line, soif means at the very end. The bottom line, yesh bikulan, in all of them. And the Rebbe is quoting over here. The Rebbe is quoting the words of Rashi on the Gemara, that in all of them, all these three that the Gemara tried to compare, but said no, there are two separate categories, stealing and cheating versus charging interest. But the Gemara, Rashi just say, he has an interesting expression. Bikulam, in all of them, there is a chesroin momoin shemechaser es chaveroi. You are actually making the person lose money. There's a diminishing of that person's fund. In order for you to receive the interest, that person has to be out a certain percentage of money. That's where they have a certain commonality. So yes, ultimately, it's not like stealing because, the person knows he's giving it and the person agreed to give it. The person signed that he will give it. But at a certain sense, at a certain level, says the Rebbe, soif, it still has some common thread with stealing, or it seems to have, with stealing, with cheating. Ve'im kein ma'u hatam shenitztavinu lechaser memonia shela'akum al yedei neshech. And if so, and therefore, what is really the reason? And the Torah actually commands us, gives us a positive command according to the Rambam, to charge interest to the guy. So now, Oispace, chapter 2 and chapter 3, I'm actually going to paraphrase, okay, because it's an interesting analysis of two varying opinions, and we actually will see the common thread where they both agree, and the Rebbe will bring an amazing point out of it and really shed a lot of light on this whole idea, this whole concept of interest, what it's all about. There's an actual machlokes, there's a debate. What happens if the lender, after having already collected, said he collected the interest, he certainly did an avera, he was wrong, now he decides, I want to do tshuva. I want to be okay with God. So he comes to the borrower and he says, listen, I want you to forgive me that. I want you to forgive it. Does the borrower have the power to do so? Or let's say he still has the money and Bezdin found out. And Bezdin says to the Malva, come, the lender, you have to give him back that money. The Torah imposes an obligation to return those funds. It's not really yours. What happens if the borrower says, you know what, I forgive it. It's my money. I don't want it back. It's like, I consider it paid. Now, by the way, that does work if, let's say, I owe someone money. And I come to the person and say, I'd like to pay you. And he goes, no, I don't want to get paid. I can't force him to accept the money. It's his money. For all practical intents and purposes, if it was his money, he's not allowed to do it. You're not supposed to throw away a good thing. But he could have taken those dollar bills and burnt them. And no one can stop him because it's his money. So the question is, could the borrower just forgive it and that's it? There's a machlokas. The Geonim, and they're quoted by the Rambam, they say no. They say, and I quote the following: all ribis is essentially one forgiving. Meaning, anytime somebody agrees to pay interest, he's essentially forgiving you money that should have rightfully been his, and he's foregoing the money. And yet, what does the Torah do? The Torah comes in and overrides that and says, no, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. Why? Because this is no longer a money matter. This is a prohibition. This is a matter of isur. This is a matter that the fact that the Torah says you cannot do it. And therefore, he can forgive you from today till tomorrow. But the fact is, you owe it to God in a sense. You don't owe it to him. It's not his money. It's not a matter between you and him. It's a matter between you and God. And God says you cannot do it. And therefore, even if he is mochel, even if he forgives it and he's ready to forgo the money, you still have to pay it back. However, the Rosh, Rabbeinu Asher, he argues no. He says that true mechila, forgiving, foregoing, does not in any way help, meaning it's not capable of allowing you to pay ribis in the first place. So if the lover goes, no, it's okay, I'm fine, I don't mind paying him interest. No, it's not okay. The Torah says it's not okay. And the Torah says that money should stay in your pocket. You can't even give it to him, from the back door as a gift, because that would constitute ribis. However, says the Rosh, once the lender received the money already, the money becomes his, and therefore, if the person wants, the person could forgive it. Meaning, if the borrower says, no, I'm okay, I don't want the money back, he can do that. And the malva, the lender, doesn't have to pay the money back. What is behind this? What is the essence of this machlokas, of this debate? The Ritva explains, when one comes to collect ribis, one is not collecting money. One is collecting, so to speak, God's debt. It's God's money, it's not your money. And therefore, no human being, even if that money originated in your pocket, in your bank account, no human being has the power to override God's debt, to wipe it away. Because this is something that the Torah imposed on you. The Torah imposes a prohibition, and the Torah says that money that went from his hand, namely from the borrower's hand to the lender's hand, Hashem says that's mine. And that has to be, the way I want it to come back to me is by you, the lender, giving it back to the borrower. However, the Rosh, Rabbeinu Asher, his opinion is that true, it's only because of God's dictate, it's only because of Hashem that you have taken the money from him wrongfully. In other words, in essence, when you took the money from that person, he gave it to you willingly. It became yours. It's just that Hashem says to you, I want you to give it back. However, the characteristic of this din, of this halacha, is that Hashem says, I want you to give back the money to him that he is out. Meaning, the money that he lost, I want you to fill. I want you to fill that loss. I want you to make up that loss for him. Therefore, if the borrower turns around and says, no, I don't feel like I lost the money, I'm not missing anything, I forgive it, I'm okay with it, then Hashem says, fine, it's okay. You don't owe him the money anymore. What do we see here? What do we see, and how can we bridge together these two opinions? If you think about it, if you go a little beneath the surface, what comes out from the way the Ritva explains these two opinions, these opposing opinions, both of them agree that at some point, and that is the point of when you received, when you collected the interest, both opinions agree that you have now become the owner of that money. It became your money. It's yours, okay? However, the question is, how do we characterize the obligation that the Torah puts on you to return that money? How do we characterize the obligation or the extent of how the Torah views your ownership of that money? Is it something you stole from the person, or is it something you took from the person in a rightful manner? It's just that the Torah added another prohibition on it, which now makes it wrong. So in short, it becomes your money. If you are the lender and you took that money, you took that interest, it's yours. Let's proceed now with chapter 4, Ois Dalet. V'al pi zeh yesh levayer, according to this halachic analysis, according to this halachic explanation, yesh levayer, we can clarify, we can explain, b'pnimiyus ha'anyanim, in a more esoteric way of looking at it, prat b'din hachzaras ribis. You can actually explain a very interesting detail in this whole concept of returning money that was taken on interest. It says, Hamalva beribis, somebody who actually loaned on ribis. Im bo lasis tshuva, if he comes to do tshuva, the person decided to change their ways, and they realize that this is wrong, and they want to make amends. Ulahachzir haribis, and to return the ribis, the rule is ein mekablim mimenu. You do not readily take it from him. The halacha Shulchan Aruch is you don't take that money from him. You don't accept it. You go, no, it's not necessary. It's fine. Keep it. Ve'af al pi she'ein mekablim mimenu, and although that we do not take the money back from him, chayav lahachzir, he, the person, is obligated to return it, lotzei sidei shamayim, to fulfill his obligation towards God. Umikol mokem, and however, midas chasidus. Midas chasidus means beyond the letter of the law. A more pious manner of observing the Torah is sheloi lekabel mimenu, not to take it back from him. So you see, on the one hand, this guy wants to return it. Don't take it. Okay, don't take it. So he comes to his Rav, his Mashpia, who's directing him how to do tshuva, and he says, what do I do now? No, you got to push. Try to force him to take it back. Okay, so now he follows the halacha. He's trying to force him to take it back. Midas chasidus, don't buckle in. Don't buckle. Don't cave in. Don't take it back from him. Have him keep it. I mean, if the money is bad, the money is tainted, why would I have him keep it? Why would that be considered extra piety for him to be forced to hold on to the money? He's trying to give it back. He wants to get rid of it. He feels like he did wrong. V'habir b'zeh. What is the beer? What is the clarification? Omru Razal. The Chachamim tell us, HaTorah chosa al memoinam shel Yisrael. The Torah actually chosa, it has compassion on Jewish people's money. The Torah has rachmanis on Yiddish geld. Why? And that's why you find many times that the Torah tries to prevent a loss, even a minor monetary loss, tries to circumvent it in order for a Jew not to lose out money needlessly for no reason. What's the reason? Vahatam lozer. What is the reason for this? Yeshloime could be said, Pei Samach Dalet, Psak Din, it's an actual halacha. Kol ma'asecha l'shem shamayim. Everything you do should always be for the sake of heaven. It's interesting, the Rebbe says it's psak halacha, this comes from Pirkei Avos. The Rebbe considers it halacha. And also there's a pasuk that says, B'chol drochecha da'ehu. Shlomo HaMelech says, in all your ways you should know him. Meaning, in everything you do, in every function in life, even the mundane, it should always be obvious that it's being done for a purpose, with the awareness of Hashem having some purpose from it, or me having a purpose in my relationship with Hashem. B'meila, therefore, kivan shezeu memoinai, since this is your money, since something is your money, and in this case this becomes your money, olav lekayim psak din ze gam b'chol memoinai. You need to fulfill this psak din, this halacha of serving Hashem with all you've got, with everything that belongs to you, with all your money. Uveloshen harambam, and if we were to quote the Rambam's expressive way, Lo yihye beliboy lekibutz mamayin bilvad elachulu. In Hilchos Deis, the Rambam tells us hashkafa, how to have a proper outlook on life, the attitude that one has to have. This doesn't exactly conform to halacha, do this or do that. But the Rambam tells us that the approach a Jew has to life is, for example, in earning money. It's not just to earn money so I can be rich, so I can indulge, so I can have a good life. I earn money and I have to do the best at it. So I can do what? So I can support myself, I can support my family, I can learn Torah and do mitzvahs without any worries, without any distractions. And likewise I can give tzedakah and so on. In other words, with your money, you are meant to fulfill this obligation, this purpose of a Yid, that in everything you do, you serve Hashem. Besignoin Torahs HaChasidus, more in a Chasidus style, let's say the same words from a Chasidic style, a Chasidic perspective. B'memoinam shel Yisrael, in Yiddish Geld, Yeshnam nitzutzin kedoshim. There are holy sparks. There are sparks of holiness. Hashayachim l'shorish mismasei. Not only are there sparks of holiness, but we know the sparks of holiness have a direct connection, a direct correlation, and therefore have to be elevated through one's neshama. So the money that came to me, the money that's mine, the money that the Torah considers rightfully in my possession, now at least, that has a special connection to my neshama. And all the sparks of holiness that are in that money is now up to me, to my neshama. My neshama has the power, has the potential, and therefore the only one that's able to elevate those sparks of holiness. V'hine, Mikivon shehidbiya HaKadosh Baruch Hu eseilamai. Since Hashem made the nature in His world, ba'ofen v'seder zeh, in such a manner, in such an order that what? Sheha'adam yochol laharviach b'kaspoi, that a person can, that you could, whether you're allowed to or not is a separate issue, but potentially there is an ability, there's a possibility to earn through your money,